Welcome back, good nuffers. We are back with a very special guest tonight. We're so lucky to have the CEO of Shifty Eye Studios, based in Calgary, here with us tonight to discuss the journey and the dream of making wonderful, immersive, and impactful games right here in our very own city. So get your conglomerate together, dial up the Operator 41, and get ready to sail and explore the cursed islands on this faithful Earthnight, as we get the chance to interview and talk about all things gaming and gaming industry with Tuncer Deniz from Calgary's own Shifty Eye Games. Tuncer, welcome. Thank you. It's awesome. Great to see you again.
Yeah. Nice seeing you guys again. I recognize the faces. So. It's been a year, good. Right? But absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you. We're glad you decided to come. It's nice to support, like local stuff too. So
absolutely.
It's nice to highlight a Calgary-based studio with.
Listen, if it's a local podcast or local beer, I'm there.
Perfect.
Local.
You just won Kyle over in one sentence.
Yeah, you just hit the
You're my
two
new
big
favorite
ones
person.
For Kyle,
Check and check.
Yeah.
So for background, we all met Tuncer last year at GameCon. Are you going to be at GameCon this year in a couple weeks?
No. So we are really, very immersed in game development right now. And we're kind of like heading towards our final year of development. So we decided to skip this one just because we have so much work ahead of us. So yeah. And it's also in Edmonton. So I'm like, I think the decision would have been a little easier if it was here in Calgary, but there's added expenses to go into Edmonton. So we will hopefully be there next year for sure, because I do feel it is important to kind of support those type of shows. But just for us, for now, it just didn't align, if you will. So yeah,
that's fair.
And that's totally fair. That like last year push to develop games, I'm sure, is pretty extensive.
Yeah.
We're just gonna jump right in with the hard hitting questions here. And I know I sent you a bunch to ruminate on, but this was actually something that I'm actually curious about myself. As far as building a game itself, going from like initial idea to full on like production and release, how long does that take, and like what actually goes into it? Because I feel like there's a lot more moving pieces than people might not actually understand or realize.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that you'll hear me say over and over, and Alex Seropian, who's on our board, him and I talk quite often. Alex Seropian, the founder of Bungie, by the way, he'd be like, nice. We'll sit around and go, making games is hard, right? Holy shit, why are we doing that? But yeah, I mean, it is an extremely difficult process, because sometimes you don't have the script, if you will. You got to invent the script as you go, So I obviously everything comes from an idea, and you have to have that idea, that foundation for an idea, and then you start building your prototype, and along with your game design doc, concept art, all those type of things. And then you really start the process of, developing your game. When we started, it was basically 3 of us. Wow. We're now up to 25 people working on this game. Right?
Wow.
There we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, it was so we're working with a major game studio, a major movie studio, I should say. So that's our partner in this title. Unfortunately, I can't say what the game IP is, but it's something super, super exciting that hasn't been done in a long, long time. So, but that's about all I can say. But based on that, you do have that foundation, right? Based on that movie IP. So we took all the ideas from those movies, and we were trying to think of something that was just unique, something different, something exciting, and ultimately something fun. Because if you don't build a fun game, forget it, right?
Nobody's going to play that.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but yeah, we tend to use the fun word a lot. Like, is this fun? Is that fun? Yeah, that's not fun. because ultimately that's what it's about. So anyway, getting back to your question. Yeah. So, I mean, our early prototypes were just very basic, like movement, camera angles, those type of things. And then we started kind of digging down into the game mechanics. What do we want, from a game mechanics standpoint? What do we want? What do we want from a storyline? How do we want the game to look? Obviously the sound and music and all that comes later. We wanted to have a lot of cinematics in the game. How do we build those, right? It is a very, very iterative process, and it can be frustrating at times because sometimes you feel like you're not making progress, but you actually are. It's just really slow at times because you just got to build more and more and more over time, right? So in our game, we're actually in our 4th year of development, right? Over 4 years now, right? Wow. By the time we finish, it'll be 6 whole years, which is kind of crazy. But when you want to build something just cool and unique and, like I said, fun, it takes time, right? And the scope of our game has increased over time. And so that's really kind of what it takes to build a game these days. Now, we are not a high-end AAA game. We're not, like a Call of Duty or Battlefield or, one of those types of games. But, very high-end AA game, absolutely, yeah.
So you're not a quadruple A. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. We're someone came up with the moniker recently, triple indie, right?
Triple indie.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, triple indie. Yeah.
I think that fits right into Jordan. Jordan talks a lot about that. The AA games that kind of punch above what you expect from them.
Yes.
That's going to be the new title there. The triple indies.
The triple indie.
The triple indies. Yeah.
We've got a lot of those right now.
There's a lot of them, and guess what? A lot of them are kicking ass.
And we love to see it.
Yeah, I love seeing it too. Every time I hear a story about, this game sold 1 million units in 24 hours, or, they surpassed 10 million units in a few months and stuff like that. It's, good on them because they're thinking outside the box. They're not doing the, let's do another Madden. Sorry. But
no, you're absolutely
no,
100%.
Correct. We've talked about this before.
Yeah. Another Assassin's Creed and another Far Cry, and so yeah. I mean, I'm so very psyched about where the industry is going as far as like indie titles, and I feel we're in that space. We're trying to mimic that kind of success, right?
Do you find that being a smaller studio and a smaller team, with kind of the breakouts of a lot of these smaller studios making unique games, do you find it exciting kind of being in the space that you are, or does it come with a little bit of extra, okay, this is a little daunting, where it's a challenge?
I think the daunting part for us is the IP, the movie IP that we were able to license back in 2020. It's a big deal. I mean, it's a very exciting IP, and I, believe it or not, I have a history with it from back in my Bungie days. Okay. That's
teaser.
Yeah, teaser. I know.
Any Nancy Drew sleuths out there?
So here's the teaser. I'm not going to say which actor it is, but this actor was playing one of our games at Bungie. He was playing Marathon, right?
Oh, damn.
So, yes, while he was filming this movie.
Ooh.
And so so his assistant called into Bungie and said, "Hey, so-and-so is playing your game and he's stuck. Can you help us out?" Right?
No way.
I'm not kidding, and I'm not making this up. Okay?
Wow.
So Doug Zartman so he's on the phone. He was tech support at that time. He was employee number 3 or 4 at the time at Bungie. So he gets on the phone and fires up the game and walks the assistant through this level that he's stuck at. And basically he's saying, okay, so-and-so, turn over here, turn over there. Oh, okay, he got through. Bye. So, hangs up the phone, like, and Doug comes to us and goes, I think that was so-and-so. And we're like, nah,
No
fuck
way.
off. That's no way is he playing our game. What the hell are you talking about? Sure enough, he calls the next day.
Stuck again.
Is he stuck in the game? He wants to get through this other part of the game. And so this time Doug actually talks to this one particular actor, which is, and then basically, he ends up finishing the movie, et cetera, and we end up getting swag for
sweet.
that movie. Yeah,
That's crazy. That's so cool.
That's
You
hilarious.
set a precedent, like you do it once, you're just
Yeah. So now, many years later, we're working on this movie IP, which is absolutely exciting. So that's the daunting part. I think what a studio like ours is able to do, which I think is more on the easy side, is actually taking risks. Right? We're not formulaic, and we're not trying to replicate something. Going into this, we're not going to build another blank game. I'm not going to say another, because it'll kind of give a hint of what it could be. So for us, we really try to kind of not doing uniqueness for the sake of being unique, but doing something that is memorable and it's exciting. It's different at the same time. But really, we just wanted to make it our own and representative, and it has the DNA of that movie franchise, right?
Awesome.
Now, you have a lot of work with Bungie, and a lot of experience there. What are some differences you found working with a smaller studio environment versus a larger producer like Bungie?
Yeah, I mean, when I was at Bungie, we were still a very small team, right? So, once Bungie got bought out by Microsoft, I kind of went my own way, if you will, and opened up my own, other types of businesses. I moved to Canada. Really,
Welcome.
Yeah. So I've been here some 23, 24 years now, right?
Wow.
So I would say that it's what I felt at Bungie is what I feel now in the studio, right?
Oh,
Okay.
Which is really the cool part about working with a small knit kind of team, and it's like day to day we are constantly we do have a lot of meetings, but it's like we foster so many ideas that way, right? And we're constantly iterating and improving the game and talking about it reminds me of those days when I was at Bungie where before at Bungie we would write shit on a pizza box, literally hey, we want to do this, and hey, Tuncer, go order some ribs, and stuff like that. And we're staying late tonight, right? And so that's kind of what it was, that kind of environment of creating shit, basically, right?
Yeah.
So it was so there's a lot of parallels between what I'm doing now and what Bungie was like back in the day, right?
That's cool.
I can't speak for what Bungie is now because the majority of the folks that were there are no longer there, but I hired a ton of those folks, Marcus Letho, and Joseph Stanton, who is now the head of the Netflix games and stuff like that. And
wow.
Of course, Alex Seropian was my boss at Bungie and the co-founder of Bungie, and now he's on our board, which is super cool. It's super exciting to have him. And him and we just talked on Sunday about our game and a few other things. So it's really cool to kind of have that feeling again, if you will.
Yeah,
That's nice that the connections are still there. Like
absolutely.
Pre and post, like just a lot of that has transversed over. That's pretty sweet.
Absolutely.
That's something that we've kind of learned a little bit more in the last few years as we've kind of dove headfirst into the games industry. Is for as many studios as there are out there, and for as big of an industry as it is, it still feels weirdly interconnected and very small. You know, there's a lot of that of just, you know, everybody stays in touch, and you know, it's pretty cool to see those kinds of connections.
It is. I mean, I was recently at GDC at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, and I was at a round table, and this one guy said, "Okay, who's the first GDC?" And a bunch of people raised their hand. Okay, who's been here 3 times? Some people raised their hand. Who's been here, 10 times? And I just kept raising my hand. Like, yeah, no, I've been doing this for like 20 some years, right? I was the last one who still had my hand up, like 20 years of GDCs, right?
It's crazy.
So you do end up seeing a lot of old familiar faces, and you haven't seen them in a while. You give them a hug. What the fuck are you up to? What are you doing? So yeah, it is cool to kind of go back and reminisce, right?
Yeah.
I think it's cool too. Like you'd made the point earlier where we're talking about the AA studios and somebody, hits 1 million purchases in like their first week or first day or whatever. And like, that's another thing, again, kind of that cohesiveness is where you got studios rooting for each other. You're like, oh yeah, like your success is our success. If you're achieving at this level, like that's good for everybody. And I think that's that's super cool, because that's like not a normal business situation.
Yeah, very different mentality.
Yeah. I mean, like I think when before Nightingale got released a few months ago in early access, I sent over a LinkedIn message to Aaron Flynn, the CEO, and I'm like, "Good luck, man." And they're like, "I hope it goes well tomorrow."
That's
right?
sick.
And he replied right away and said, "Thank you." And of course, you want to see Canadian companies do well, Albertan companies do really well, because it's kind of like we are trying to do something different here and grow this industry, despite some tax challenges.
What?
Is that a advantage?
So yeah, I mean, we're trying to do something here, right? Because I think, if you look at my studio, it's made up of a lot of young people, a lot of, they're straight out of college sometimes, and they're eager to get into this industry. And I don't like knocking oil and gas, because hey, we live and breathe by it. But a lot of people want to get into these type of high-tech industries, right? Yep. And so I do believe we need to kind of foster that type of creativity, innovation. And one of the cool things is that the schools here in Alberta are actually doing lots of programs to help students get into that field. So
there's a big push for tech.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you found that that's grown since you've been here? Like that's been a big, and like, kind of what has that looked like really? Because I'm trying to think 20 years ago, I mean, aside from trades, like there was nothing.
No, it was non-existent. A couple of weeks ago, we had some graduates from Bow Valley College from their animation course come by, and they showed us all their their portfolio as they were kind of going out into the real world to get jobs and stuff like that. And our animators provided feedback and whatnot.
That's awesome.
And
That's
then
sweet.
I've had quite a few interactions with SAIT, University of Alberta, Lethbridge, they're coming out of the woodwork because these are things that students are demanding, right? I have another call with someone like on Tuesday, like, hey, we're building this curriculum and we need some advice, and can we call you? I'm like, absolutely, yes. So
That's
Really?
brilliant.
yeah.
I really appreciate that you're sort of giving back to foster that within the province.
Absolutely.
I'm checking off a bunch of questions here because you've just led into the
Let's go.
That's great. I'm gonna do anything. Do you find right now that Alberta is doing a good job of attracting any sort of like video game development talent to Calgary and Alberta? And second part, what could they do to improve attracting talents to this area?
Look, I think I'm going to give you some examples without implicating myself, if you will. But I think, New World Interactive was attracted, when they came here a few years ago, they were attracted by the tax incentives that were in place in Alberta, right? Mm-hmm. And they ended up leaving. Why? Because those tax breaks went away. Now, I am completely non-political. I'm a dumb American, to be honest. Like, though I am Canadian, I'm a Canadian citizen as well. But it's like,
well, in America, your choices are right and slightly less right.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I don't worry about politics as much as I do like in the US and like Trump and Biden, and oh my God, it seems like a lot of Albertans or Canadians are also obsessed with like US politics, right?
It's way more interesting. Like it's like ours is boring.
Just theater.
Yeah.
They're way too nice to each other. Like it's just
absolutely. So from a provincial level, I think that those type of kind of incentives would help for sure foster more kind of studios either starting here or relocating here, et cetera, right? Because ultimately we have to compete with the other provinces. That's the bottom line. There's so many incentives in Quebec and in Ontario and BC and whatnot, and we don't have that, right? That said, the federal government, as you guys may have read, I mean, we got a grant of almost $800,000 a few months ago, and it's an export grant from the Canadian Heritage Foundation, and they awarded us that grant, which we applied for. But they looked at our studio, they looked at the game we were working on, and they're like, "This is amazing for Calgary, for Alberta, and for Canada." And so we were very lucky and very proud to have gotten that grant. It's a huge thing, right? Yeah. Now on the there are other tax incentives in place, like SR&ED, so like SR&ED credits and whatnot that we use and take advantage of, and it's extremely helpful. Like, I don't want to underestimate the amount of help that the Canadian government and the provincial government, because SR&ED is part of the provincial government as well, that have helped our studio, and we're talking millions of dollars. So that to me is a huge thing. When I talked to Alex about, so Alex, again, the founder of Bungie, about this, he lives in LA. He has a studio in LA. And he goes, "What's with all these tax credits?" He's like, "I need to move to Canada, right?" He's like, "We got none of that here." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And it's very cool. And good on the government to see that we need to kind of foster this type of innovation, right?" With
the success of things like The Last of Us, like I know obviously the movie industry or TV industry being a bit different, but sort of video game adjacent in terms of entertainment. Have you seen that get any better recently after like some recent success?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, all those, for movies like, TV series like The Last of Us, they have to work with, visual effects and those type of things. And so those, we have to use those in our games as well. So yeah, many times those, they intermingle, if you will, right? I'll give you a really good example. A gentleman who worked on the movie series, we got in touch with him, the IP that we're working on.
Yep.
And we told him, hey, we're working on this. Would you be interested in working with us? And he was like, absolutely. This is so cool. And so he's done a bunch of, I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but he's done stuff from us from a visual effects standpoint that
Sweet.
mimics the stuff in the movies.
Fantastic.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah. So it is really cool to kind of I love seeing those type of things. Like The Last of Us, when that came out, I was like, I recognize that. That's that's the bridge in Calgary, right? And stuff like that. So it is really cool. But I mean, I think the important message here is that we need to incentivize that. The government needs to incentivize it. Private businesses need to incentivize those type of things. It all starts from education, obviously, right? So, yeah.
We have seen, I know, talking to Chris and Mark at GameCon, they've done a lot of work to talking to all these colleges and stuff in Alberta, trying to get more exposure for them and more involvement into the industry. So it's really cool that it's starting to like branch out and people realize that it's a big industry.
Absolutely. I'll give you one example if I can. When we first started the studio back in 2020, we did have to hire people from Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, and we brought them in. Lately, that's been changing quite a bit. We are looking for local talent first, because obviously relocating is a pain. But our last few hires, we just hired a level designer. Now, he did immigrate from Russia, but he chose to live here in Calgary. And sure enough, he's like, I saw your ad, I applied, and we saw his experience. And we're like, holy shit, we need to hire this guy.
We'll take him.
We took him.
Sold.
Literally, he was in a hotel when he saw our ad. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
He had just landed into Calgary. And we were like, oh, did you stop by, Toronto and you got sick of that and all? Nope. He's like, I came from Europe directly to Calgary.
I saw the ads. I saw the Alberta ads.
Alberta is calling.
It works.
Yeah, exactly.
Too well.
I do want to say a kind of a bittersweet story about all this, if I can.
Yep.
We also have a Ukrainian gentleman who we also recently hired. He immigrated from Ukraine back in October. Again, over 10 years experience in the gaming field, et cetera, et cetera. And so we were kind of like, when the Russian guy started and then the Ukrainian guy was there, I'm like, let's see how this goes, right? I was a little nervous about what would happen, but sure enough, they go to lunch together. They do things together.
Okay, that's
it's really cool to kind of
love that.
Politics is politics and war is war, but in the end, it's cool to see that. I was really proud of that. So
that's
people are people.
That's wicked.
You heard it here first, folks. Shifty Eye Studios bringing people together.
Yes, they bridged that gap.
That's what video games do.
Right here in Calgary.
Yeah. It's a kumbaya moment.
Yeah,
absolutely. We need more of those.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, so I think we're gonna switch gears a little bit here. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna go into our segment, which this week is actually the Good Enough Jukebox.
Good enough
Jukebox. All right, so Trevor, can you re-explain for anyone who might be new what the Good Enough Jukebox is?
All right, so Good Enough Jukebox, sort of self-explanatory, but we're looking at music within video games or kind of nerdy sources, but typically video games. So just soundtracks you can listen to through your day for whatever it is, or if you're really mad, listen to Doom. But anything else aside from that? So this week I wanted to touch on another awesome Canadian studio, and that is Studio MDHR, who made Cuphead. So if anyone hasn't played Cuphead, side scroller in like 1930s cartoon style, very difficult game.
Not easy.
But the music in that game is awesome. It's like 1930s like jazz flapper big band kind of stuff. And it's a great time. Like, it's such a fun soundtrack that matches what's going on. So that is, that's my pick for this week. Same thing. It's on Spotify. You can find it pretty much anywhere. Yeah. Also check out that game. Another great Canadian studio.
Cuphead.
Just Cuphead. Yep.
All right. So, Tuncer, you've come prepared with your own pick too.
Yeah, Halo. I mean,
easy.
Let's go.
I mean, come on, like, I don't know how many times like I've told the story about Halo and the soundtrack and how all that came about. So let me know when I should talk about that.
Right now.
Right now. Okay,
I'd love to hear this.
Yeah, gotta be dropped.
Okay. So it's a really, really cool story, and I love telling it. But basically, so Jason Jones is the other co-founder of Bungie, right? And he's still at Bungie. I mean, this is the guy who created, Halo and Destiny and obviously the Marathon games, the Myth games, legend in the industry. Very reclusive type of person, very private, so you don't hear too much about him, but he's an absolute genius, right? So we're working on a game called Myth. It was a real-time strategy game, top-down perspective, and the game, the idea for that game had really come from the movie Braveheart. Have you guys?
Sweet! Oh yeah!
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. So Jason comes into the office one day, and he's kind of like, when I knew him back then, he was a bit like OCD, like, guys, I just saw this movie. We're gonna go see it tonight. Let's go. We're gonna go see it. I'm like, Jason, you already saw the movie. We're going again.
Gotta go.
You guys have to see this movie. So
it's good.
We all went to see Braveheart and loved the movie. Came in the next day, and he had a design doc ready to go, and it was a one pager basically, and it was like, I think on the top it said "shit that rocks" and "shit that sucks," and so the shit that rocks was on top, and it's like one of the lines I remember was "little fuckers blowing up little fuckers," and seeing their little bits of blood and parts kind of, flailing around and stuff like that. So basically, as we're working on this game, and I was the producer on this title, he came to me. He's like, "We need sound, we need music, we need something cool, right?" And so I put out something on the web of like, "Hey, we're looking for a company or studio or something like that." So we started getting audio tapes, like the cassette tapes, right?
Yeah.
For anyone listening that is under the age of...
Yes. yeah, in the mail. Yeah.
In the mail.
Yeah. So
and you listened on your Walkman.
Yeah. Yeah, when you listen on your Walkman, exactly. Yep. Yeah. I think I had like a cassette recorder on my it was either that or like a CD. Yeah, it was CDs and stuff like that. DVDs were a thing back then. I'm not that old.
It's okay. We all are.
Yeah. So anyway, this pile started piling up, and I'm like, okay, I started listening to a bunch of them, and then I opened one, and it was from a studio in Chicago. I'm like, oh shit. And the letter basically said, "Hey, we're a studio here in town, and we're working on the sound and music for Riven." Do you guys know what Riven is? Yeah. So Riven was the sequel to Myst. Mm-hmm. Right. So
here we go.
Immediately the name was dropped, right? It was like Riven. Of course, it piqued my interest. I listened to the CD and I'm like, holy shit, the music is amazing. And so then I look at the address and I'm like, that's a block away.
Oh,
like it's literally like a block away. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh. So why'd you mail this? You could have walked it over.
Yeah. So I end up calling Marty O'Donnell, who was in a studio called, I think they were called Total Audio with Mike Salvatore. And so we got together. I kind of explained what we needed. We showed them the game and everything. And so, of course, we were still a bit skeptical, but we're like, okay, we need music and we need sound and things like that. It took them about a week. They came back a week later with music and all the sounds, explosions and this and that for the game. Yeah, and we were like, this is it. This is absolutely amazing.
That's
right?
incredible.
Yeah.
What a turnaround.
Yeah. So basically, Marty eventually came to work at Bungie, right? And he's the one who developed the soundtrack for Halo and the famous,
intro screen.
Right?
So good.
The thing everyone's done in like an empty change room bathroom with a good echo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my Halo music story. So
it's funny how connections in the industry turn into something completely different.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Like that opportunity to do that.
The other cool thing about Marty and Mike is that their claim to fame before the Riven soundtrack and the Halo soundtrack was the Flintstones jingle. Do you guys remember that one?
Oh yeah,
the Flintstones vitamins.
Oh, the vitamins.
Kids, 2 million strong and growing, or whatever it was.
This world takes a little growing into, and 10 million kids are getting all the vitamins they need to help them grow with Flintstones.
We are Flintstones kids, 10 million strong and growing. We are Flintstones kids, 10 million strong and growing. We are Flintstones kids, 10 million strong.
Flintstones, America's favorite.
And growing.
Wow, from
that
the
was them,
late like 80s, and so
I ate a lot of those growing up.
right. Yeah.
They didn't fortify your back though.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Okay, so we're gonna bring it back here. Instead, we've talked a bunch about industry, but I want to know more about Tuncer.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of experience like playing games? Do you play games in your spare time? What was your first console you played?
Oh man, the first console that I probably owned was the Sega Genesis, I think.
Nice.
I think it was the Sega Genesis. But before that, at one point in the early 80s, I lived in Venezuela, and my dad was an engineer. So he was a dam builder.
Dang.
Damn.
Yeah. Yep. Little hint, there's a dam sequence in our game. Just because of that.
Were you critiquing the engineering?
Thanks,
of it?
Dad.
That's not
homage to my dad, basically, who's
That's
no
kind of
longer
cool.
with us, but he would totally appreciate that.
That's
awesome.
So, oh God, what were we talking about?
Sega Genesis, first console.
Yeah, Sega Genesis. So the Intellivision
Oh yeah.
Yes.
is one that I played.
That's Jordan's.
Right, the Intellivision, I think, was the first one when I was like, oh my God, you can play games on a TV? What the hell?
At your house?
Right?
What?
Yeah.
Sliding in
Literally.
the little pamphlet into the TV remote controller.
Yes. Right. Yep. And before that, my experience with a video game was basically, now, do you guys remember that handheld football game?
Oh yeah.
The one where it was like 3 dots basically, and you had to move the running back like up and down.
Yeah.
That was the first game I had ever played. Right. So yeah.
I think a few of us like the first those handheld like super simplistic.
Pixels.
You there are 2 buttons kind of games where like that was
it.
That was the bridge.
Yeah.
It was all over from there.
Game and Watch handhelds too.
Yes.
Like I remember having one Game and Watch back in the day too.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think, the other game, obviously Pong, was kind of the one I was obsessed with. But later on, when I got a Mac back in when I was back in high school, I would play this game called Airborne like nonstop. So instead of like in my computer class, I would just go and play Airborne, and then
Seemed to work out for you.
yeah. And then after that, I played a lot of a game called Karateka. You guys heard of Karateka?
No.
Do you guys remember Prince of Persia?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so the creative Prince of Persia was this guy named Jordan Mechner. Is a guy named Jordan Mechner, and he built this Karateka game for the Apple II, I believe, and eventually got onto the Mac. Go check it out. It's absolutely amazing because some of the stuff that they did back then, he would film himself doing like runs and things like that, like running and then stopping and kicking and whatnot. So he would film that and then hand draw it, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, for like 2D. It's absolutely amazing. He has a book out about it.
Oh, crazy.
So yeah. So one of my highlights many years ago, I told him this in a tweet not too long ago. I'm like, dude, you're the guy. You are the reason I am in the video game industry. Is because of
that's
you.
rad.
Yeah. So Jordan Mechner.
Jordan Mechner.
Yeah.
Legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now that we got your past, but this is like the ghosts of gaming past.
What's the present?
Exactly. Yeah, like what are you? I know, like busy developing a game, but do you have time to play games yourself right now?
I do, yeah.
And what are you playing?
I play a lot of games because
Love to hear it.
Yeah, I do play a lot of games. I don't play a lot of them all the way through because it's just they're very time consuming. I think that's one of my criticism of games these days. It's like, oh my God, 80 hours in, I still haven't gotten to the end, And
Thank you.
right, it's hard, and the sheer volume of games, which I think is also a problem, is maybe something we should talk about. The sheer volume of games is also daunting. So I do have to kind of handpick the ones that I do want to play and whatnot.
I feel that.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of games, but when something comes out where it's like, this indie developer has released this game and done, extremely well. Manor Lords is the one that I just started playing recently.
Oh,
right?
yeah. That blew up.
Yeah. That one blew up. And then I do play a lot of PUBG. One of the questions you guys had sent me.
Winner, chicken dinner.
What's your favorite game of all time? 7 years on, and some 3,200 hours later, I'm still playing PUBG.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
I have a funny story about PUBG.
Yeah.
So I was visiting friends in Toronto, and I was like, we were out, we had gone to the bar, like we were like had gone out for the day, and we're like, oh man, like we haven't had like dinner, like let's go somewhere to eat. And we're walking downtown in Toronto, and there's this restaurant on the side that's just like opening. It's doing like a big opening, and they're like, hey, you guys want to come in? We got free like chicken and coleslaw and all this stuff. Like, you want to come in and try this? Like, whatever. We're just opening up, and I was like, this is the perfect storm. I was like, we're hungry. Like, I've been out all day. Like, yeah, this is awesome. So we go inside, and there's nobody like in the front. So now I'm like, okay, like I'm in some like hostile situation. I'm about to get robbed by these people that say this is a restaurant. This is not a restaurant. The menu's like sold out. It's like, all that's left is the special. And I was like, what the hell is the special? So I go up to the front, and I was like, well, I guess I'll have the special. And the guy's like, oh, if you want to go get it, you have to go to the back into the kitchen. And I was like, okay, I'm for sure losing a kidney tonight. Like, like that's it. Like, black market's got me. But I go to the back. I knock on the kitchen door. It's like one of those sliding, like, what's the password? Like, and the guy's like, are you a winner? And I was like, hell yeah, I'm a winner. And so like opens the door. In the back, there's like 15 Xboxes all hooked up to TVs. It's PUBG's like media release team. And they're like in the back. there's there's an actual chicken bar with like coleslaw and everything and drinks or whatever, and they're filming everybody playing PUBG on like sort of it's like first major release like or revamp or like whatever, like next map or whatever.
Wow.
It was so cool. I was like, okay, PUBG, you won me over. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was like it was a great thing.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, some of the other games I've been playing recently, No Rest for the Wicked, obviously Helldivers 2.
Spread that democracy.
Hilarious.
Such a good game. And,
Drinking that liberty.
Yeah, of course. I played Baldur's Gate 3, of course.
Yes, you did. Hell yeah.
Yes, I did. I also play simulation games. Like one of these days, you guys have to come over and see my sim rig. It's absolutely insane.
Like driving or?
Yeah, so driving and flight sims, right?
Okay,
so
nice.
I have this rig set up with triple monitors.
Oh,
with
yeah.
a rig that moves up and down. So it has actuators on it. It has a butt kicker on the bottom of your seat, so vibration and everything. It's insane. So
we just became best friends. Like,
I was half expecting you to say you had like a controller hook up to like a power wash wand, so you could play a power wash simulator.
Oh my god. I can't believe you mentioned Power Wash Simulator. Oh my god!
How many hours, Tuncer? How many hours?
No. So
Platinumed.
So at one point, I started streaming for fun, right? And I did it for a short period. I think this is like when the pandemic started.
I was going to say, this sounds like a COVID.
That's how this started. So
Totally, it's like we were working from home. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to stream, right? And so I started streaming and people, a few people started watching me. And I'm like, okay, I gotta try this Power Wash Simulator. And so, I'm washing shit and just going back and forth.
Playing the game.
Yeah, doing, after about 45 minutes, I'm like, I don't feel good. I got nausea.
Oh no!
Yeah, from the like doing this, like, yeah, I got nausea, and I'm like, uninstall, see you later.
Never again.
Never again. But that game did extremely well. I mean, good for the developer.
Who knew there was a market for power washing?
Yeah.
Anytime I see those like lawnmower simulator, and
the goat simulator.
Yeah. I mean, I think. I don't know if I should talk about. I think those are some of the issues in the industry now that we're seeing. Is a lot of rinse and repeat, literally, right?
What do you mean, Madden?
Yeah,
28,
2K,
yeah. Which like every year the NHL game comes out, I buy it and I play it and I enjoyed it. But I do feel that the industry is kind of in these, there's studio closings and firings and all this other stuff going on, and a lot of it I think has to do with just the sheer amount of games that are coming out on Steam every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you can only there's so many dollars that can go towards buying games, and so back in my day, when I used to run uphill and downhill to my to my
went uphill both ways.
Yeah, both ways. When I used to go to the game store, you'd be like, oh, a game came out. Oh, cool. Right. I should buy that. Now it's just there's so many of them, and it's problematic. I think what ultimately is happening is that we need to just get to an equalization type of level, right? And so I think what you'll see is like the ones that are really innovative. You're seeing it right now with these games like Matter Lords and whatnot, and what you're seeing is the ones who are like doing something different, super innovative, different, etc. Those are the ones that are kind of floating to the top, and they're doing really well. unfortunately, it means if you have a formulaic type of game that doesn't bring anything new to the table, you're going to be in the bottom and your game's not going to do well. So, you're right.
We've talked about this like a ton here, especially with the way microtransactions now have like overtaken everything.
Yes.
And the most successful games right now are the ones that really don't include them very much.
Yeah. Yes. There's
like
great. This is great.
Yes, love it. Yeah. I love to see it.
I couldn't be happier for those games.
Love to see it.
I mean, I think there's a huge like backlash towards microtransactions, and especially, not to bring up my former employer, but I think I just saw a YouTube video about they were just, I think it was something like why games suck now or something like that, and they really concentrated on Destiny's kind of push with microtransactions, and they were quite critical of it.
I mean, it's no EA, BattleNet, Blizzard,
2K.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely something that we've talked about many times. So is not just the microtransaction thing, but then now it's the games as a service.
Yes,
and it's that whole concept of we're gonna keep pumping out content, and we're gonna hook you in, and we only want you to play our game. We don't want you
and we'll sell you an $80 King Kong fist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a $90 horse skin.
Yeah. funny enough, both Activision Blizzard games.
Yeah, exactly right. But hey, look at Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
Like
they stay away from it.
Yeah. It's
mostly.
The latest Zelda game, which I played, it was like a single player game. What the hell?
Yeah.
Right?
What is that?
Yeah. So, our game is a single player game. And
nice.
I've been criticized for it at times.
No. Love it.
Like some people, industry people are like, oh, it doesn't have multiplayer. I'm like, nope. Our game doesn't need multiplayer. Guess what? No, this is a single player experience. When people play this game, they're going to feel different because of everything that we're doing within the game. Right. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We need more stuff like that.
All right. I got one last like big question for you.
Sure.
Pie in the sky, no max budget, no restrictions.
Did you see the wheels were turning immediately?
Yeah.
He just opened a folder on his computer.
Yeah.
No budget, no restrictions on IPs or anything like that. If you could build any game, if you had the chance to build anything like passion project, whatever you wanted, is there something like a direction you would go? Is there a game? Take us to your gamescape. Where would you go?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, think the game we're working on right now. It's too bad we can't talk about it. But even before I started working on this game, I was a huge fan of this IP. Right, just a huge fan of it. And I would watch this one particular movie in the series, and I was like, every single moment of that movie is absolutely incredible to me, right? So, one of the questions you had was like, what's my dream game? I really feel like I'm working on my dream game. It's
phenomenal.
It's absolutely
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
That's so cool.
Knowing the IP, I know Kyle was so excited last year to sign his first NDA.
Yeah.
Knowing
We all
the IP, I remember Kyle and I playing one of the original games that went with the first movie that came out in that series.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was it was so much fun. I think it set the ground for a lot of other games. I won't say what they are because it'll completely ruin it.
Yeah.
But I think it's just that whole series, it had so many fun factors, and they've expanded that so much.
Exactly. So, that all said, like, I'm extremely proud. I tell my team, I'm like, I pinch myself once in a while and I go, is this real? Like, I'm really working on this IP. It's that much fun, and it's that exciting. That all said, I do have like a romantic feeling about Marathon. like that the game that Bungie made back in the late 90s, and it was a first person shooter set in space and whatnot. And I just have so many fond memories of that game when I started working there. I mean, I'll just tell you, it was just a bunch of guys who would, we'd work on a level and a bit of the engine and some of the sound and stuff like that. We'd order pizza and then, okay, let's play network, network play, like literally local talk. There was no Ethernet back then, right? And so Jason would make a build of the game, and it would take like a good half an hour to get like a 10 megabyte game to each computer. And then finally we would start playing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Next thing we know, it's like 3 a.m. We're like, oh my God, I got to go home.
Yeah.
And so,
Classic LAN party.
Yeah, classic LAN party. Exactly. And so,
Miss those days.
Yeah. And so I told Alex the story. So I met him at GDC, and I was with some of my colleagues from Shifty, and so it was like 4 or 5 of us, including Alex, and I was telling this story about like those were my fondest memories of playing Marathon at on Halstead Street in Chicago at the old Bungie offices, and the very first time we played Network Marathon, I was there until 4 or 5 in the morning, something like that. Went home, and I call Alex the next day, and we were literally like giggling, like Beavis and Butthead. We were like, dude. Are we playing again tonight? That was great, right? So I'm leading up to something, and that is a game that I would love to build, but guess what? They're already building it, right?
Oh, cool.
Marathon is Bungie's next game, and I hope it comes out and does really, really well. So
Did they call you for like some? Did they call you for some Easter eggs? Like some?
There are still some Easter eggs in the game in that game, that probably people don't know about. But I do want to say something. You can go play Marathon right now. It was just re-released on Steam for free.
What?
No way.
Yes.
Okay.
So go on Steam.
You don't say.
So go play Marathon. The original Marathon is out on Steam right now. It's a free download, and you can play it. It's totally old school. Forgive the graphics. It's all 2D graphics, basically.
Yeah.
By that I mean like the characters are all 2D sprites in a 3D environment. But and then eventually they're to come out with Marathon 2 and then Marathon Infinity. I was the project lead on Marathon Infinity.
Awesome.
So it's super cool to see. So
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
That was going to be my follow-up question with them announcing Marathon is making a comeback. How do you feel about that? Are you excited? You going to be there day one? Like,
I mean, I'm excited. I again, knowing the history of Marathon is something I'm very proud of, and very proud of having been, associated with that. So I'm excited. I'm a little nervous, if you will, because Bungie's a different animal now, right? It's not a bunch of guys in a small studio. It's big budgets, $200-300 million budgets and things like that. So I do hope
Chump change.
Chump change. So I really hope it comes out and does really well. But I'm nervous, right? So let's hope it's not full of microtransactions and paywalls and stuff like that. So
cautious optimism. That's where we're sitting.
Do it right. Learn from all these other studios. Do it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, like with every other episode, I know we could be here for hours on end. I could talk video games forever.
Love it.
Tuncer, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. It's very cool to get sort of different perspectives, especially from inside the game industry and from someone who's both has experience and is developing a game here in Calgary.
Yeah,
So cool.
thank you.
We wish you the best of luck with developing with your last year. We look forward to hearing more about it because
Absolutely.
I can't wait to play.
I can't wait
Final
to
product.
I can't wait to officially spread the word about it.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah, that too.
I know, right? It's 4 years is a long time, but yeah, we just got to wait a little longer, and we got to be ready with our marketing plan and everything to kind of be ready on day one when we can announce it. So
It's also a
already
privilege
have
to
to
have like
rely,
inside information.
I know. It doesn't happen.
When the game releases, that part 2 episode with a beer in hand,
right, yeah.
we're there.
We're going to be playing the game in a bar with a beer.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll just bring our laptops, we'll set it up, we'll start playing, right?
That's right.
So
Done.
I do want to invite you guys to the studio. So we're in Inglewood.
Oh,
You guys
nice.
ever want to come by, please do.
Oh,
Just let
would
me
love
know.
to.
Yeah, it's a great environment. You can check out the latest iteration of the game and talk with some of the folks there. So
Sick.
yeah.
Good enough field trip.
Yeah, let's go.
Sign me up.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks a
so
lot.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I think that episode was good enough, guys.
It was good enough.
Good enough.
Good
it.
enough.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for more content. We also invite you to write an email or join us on Discord to talk about anything from our episodes or something else you would like to discuss in the future. Please subscribe to the Good Enough Gaming podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. And remember, we might not be great, but we are good enough.